Hello, this is David Abramovich from Now I See a Person Institute. I'm faculty at Now I See a Person Institute. With me, I have our esteemed colleagues, Dr. Susan Swim, Executive Director at Now I See a Person Institute, Joanna, also faculty at Now I See a Person Institute, and Ashley, faculty at Now I See a Person Institute. Now I See a Person Institute is a nonprofit organization that focuses on clinical work, research, and education. And today we will be recapping our conference, which occurred a few days ago.
Thank you. Thank you, David. So we're so happy to have everyone here. We had quite a panel on Sunday, and currently we're wanting to host conferences to reflect the work that we have been doing over the past 4 decades, but especially probably over the last 2 decades. I just want to talk a little bit about who I am and what I do. And I was very fortunate to be in the field early on when marriage and family therapy wasn't even a licensed field in Texas. And my mentors were some of the first marriage and family therapists, including Harry Galician and Tom Anderson, of course, Harleen, and some of the other people that were very influential in my life were John Schotter and Ken Gergen, among many others. And the philosophy of helping people who had been diagnosed with very severe mental illness labels, and helping them in a way that wasn't formulaic ways of treating every individual the same way, and having this presence of humility, transparency, honesty, and collaboration, and helping people and their families be able to find complete recovery from severe mental illness labels. And in 2007, after leaving the Houston Galveston Institute and moving to California, I opened up Now I See a Person Institute, which was devoted to helping these types of populations. And at first we did it with horses, and now that has moved on to working in out of the office types of settings, which include, I guess, at times a horse ranch, but not very often anymore. But maybe people's homes and virtual for sure. And we work, if possible, as a team of therapists with not a limited time. So a lot of times our clients will be seen for until hope occurs. So that could be an hour, 2 hours, maybe even longer. It could be daily, or it could be once a week. And we find that people are able to recover from severe mental illness diagnoses, where they not only become asymptomatic, but they find their own freedom and their own path to having the lives that they want to have, again, without symptoms. So my background was, I think, it's necessary sometimes to talk about this, but when I was a young therapist and we had been trained at the Houston Galveston Institute before I became faculty on the Houston Galveston Institute, a group of us opened up a mental health clinic that was run by the state. And we used the ideas that we had borrowed from the Houston Galveston Institute about kind of the diseasing of mental health, where we did not see people as a mental illness diagnosis, but we saw people as people were suffering, and how can we best help them? So at that point in time, which was 1984, we would, if people came in and they had symptoms of quote unquote psychosis or depression or eating disorders, bipolar disorders, schizophrenia, you name it, people came in and we talked with them as people. The way that we operated was very much as we were trained at the Houston Galveston Institute. And so people were not referred for a psychiatrist, although there was a psychiatrist at the clinic. We did not talk in terms of, we talked in what Lynn Hoffman has often referred to as common talk. So we didn't talk in terms of diagnosis. We talked in terms of the trauma that these people had went through. So, and again, it wasn't like Lynn Hoffman used to talk about, wasn't that finding of things in the bushes. It was talking about what they wanted to talk about and what they thought was important and not what we felt was important. And so really it was a different type of presence, of welcoming the client's voice instead of trying to steer this client's voice or coerce the client into thinking a different way. And it was extremely productive. It was productive in the same way that we have what we're doing today, using just very simple, what people would call methodologies of having this relational connection and being able to talk about what has happened that was important to them, how they have suffered and how they want things to be different. And through those conversations, people are able to come up with endless possibilities and endless solutions for life to be different for them. So that's kind of what I talked about a little bit in the conference before the panel started. And in this Zoom or this recording, you will also hear the panel that was able to talk a couple of days ago. So I don't know who would like to go next in introducing themselves and what we do or what you do.
I will go. My name is David Rovich, like I said, and I'm also faculty and RC a person, and I've been a member for past decade. And prior to coming to Now I See a Person, I was an attorney and saw nothing but despair. So I went to graduate school to study clinical psychology with my eyes wide open and with a bag full of promises and hope. And when I got to school, that gradually changed when I experienced the fact that what was being taught was that people were diagnoses and they would never get better. And that was further reinforced when I did my practicum at a very quote unquote esteemed location that was tied to the Department of Mental Health. And there I just saw even more despair and was questioning my reasoning for wanting to be in the helping profession. I abruptly left and found Now I See a Person serendipitously. And that was a place where my heart grew and my supersonic hearing also grew. And they kind of collided. And I saw people getting better every single day. And I saw the proper way of treating people that came before us, how they should be honored, and how they were the experts. And at first, it was a very difficult process for me because I was used to giving advice as an attorney. But slowly, very slowly but surely, I opened up my heart and my ears, and I learned how to listen, and I watched miracles happen before me.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Absolutely a beautiful statement. Um, I'm not sure if our other two panel members could introduce themselves and say something, but just waiting for the mutes to come off.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. So my name is Ashley. I am a recovery consultant here with Now I See a Person. And this institution is very, very close to my heart because I have experienced firsthand how you've, like, not only through working with the horses, but also through the collaborative dialogical practices, how we've been able to open our hearts together, not only of the people that we're seeing, but also our own hearts, and break free from labels of mental illness and start becoming excited together about things that make us human and have this beautiful process of reintegrating nature back into our life and what is natural to us.
Thank you so much. And then, last but not least, hi, Joanna.
Hello. So my name is Joanna Buchans. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I've been working with Now I See a Person Institute for a little bit of time now, and it's been very different from all the different sites I worked at, from psychiatric centers to private practice. I did a little bit of traveling abroad, and when I came back, I wanted to continue the mission of Now I See a Person Institute with helping to create courses for clinicians to learn collaborative dialogical therapy. And we're encouraging that learning process internationally for therapists to learn about this and more ways to help people that offers true recovery. So that's kind of our mission here and my role.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So a couple of days ago, we had a conference called Normalizing Ourselves for the Clients, Freeing Ourselves and Finding Freedom. And we had a number of former people who had received our services and also recovery consultants. And I don't know, Dave, if you would like to talk a little bit about recovery consultants.
Sure. Recovery consultants is they are very special individuals who have worked with us at Now I See a Person and have allowed us into their lives and shared their stories with us. And they've imparted their wisdom to us through the therapeutic process, and they are people that are thriving and are huge assets to us because of their own journeys and how they experience Now I See a Person as former clients. They are a wealth of knowledge as far as not only sharing their narratives, but also sharing their resources and what has been helpful to them. So it makes our roles more, I would say, it gives us legitimacy and gives us credibility among our clients, and allows us to teach our theory in a way where we have real life examples of what it is to be like it now or see a person. And our institute would not be the same without them.
So we started this last year, and I think a lot of it was driven, as a lot of things are driven, from having colleagues that were doing similar things in different countries, especially Pavel and his team there. And so we have also created a 2-year learning program for people to come study with us who were with us at one point in time. And it's just has been, as you said, amazing. You know, when you have someone who has walked in those similar shoes, like a mother talking to another mother, that their child also went through something like that and came out at the other end, just as one mother will say 100%, or individuals who have walked in very difficult shoes, and now that they have opportunities to share that with people to provide hope. That, and I think that really, if you wanted to boil it down to what we do, is that we really just help people have hope until situations are able to change. And we started doing these podcasts in 2020, when COVID came around, and to really help not only clinicians know that there are different ways of being with clients that can lead to phenomenal success, so that clinicians are able to hear different ways of being with clients that maybe that they read in some book, and maybe giving clinicians that opportunity to do what they originally wanted to. Like, David, it makes me think of you going into your program, and then, you know, I think everybody thinks they're going to go into a program learning how to kind of nurture people and sit with them and sit with those spaces until things get better, instead of it being more of a formulaic process. And the other part was that, you know, for clients to have hope themselves, to hear stories and stories and stories of recovery, like what we have in our podcast and our virtual learning programs. Those podcasts are filled with stories of people since 2007 finding complete recovery, and detailing how that happened for each one of them. I know when we were doing this a couple of days ago, we were asked about the methodology, and we talked about that this is different from person to person. So people who learn collaborative dialogical practices have to kind of let go of certainty. You know, that certainty that you know exactly what you're going to do when you're entering into a therapy session. You know, when I used to teach at a university level, you would often see students, and they would learn this theory and they would try to put it on somebody, but all you would see was a theory. You wouldn't see interaction between people. And I think that that what we've tried to accomplish within these learning venues is helping people kind of put on those shoes of a therapist with uncertainty, and with an open heart and an open mind, that can become a listener for the other person without the prejudice of what people should or shouldn't be doing. Not that people are running rampant through the streets, but that people don't have to be a particular theory in order to find wellness. So Ashley, I'm gonna give you the floor and I'm gonna let you wrap this up if you can for us.
Okay, well, I would just like to start off by thanking everyone who attended our conference. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. It's very vital to remind people about their humanity and to remember that we are so much more than the labels that we place upon ourselves or that others place upon us. We're humans with a soul and dreams and wishes and goals, and that in itself is wondrous. Life itself is precious and wonderful. So thank you so much, everyone who attended. Thank you, everyone, for listening, whether it be when you were listening live or via online. Have a wonderful evening, and I hope to hear from you soon. Also, if you guys have the opportunity and are blessed, we are a nonprofit, so we would love donations. It helps us continue the work that we do, continue spreading education and awareness. So have a wonderful day, friends, and bye.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So I was just sharing about my first day on the ranch and getting to meet Dr. Swim for the first time and being so surprised that I didn't see someone in glasses and a pantsuit, but someone in like cowgirl boots and very relaxed and approachable and comfortable. And it was just almost like immediately easy for me to be able to talk. And it wasn't an environment where I felt like I had to be careful or I was going to be judged or anything. And then just being surrounded by the horses and just looking at them walk around, do their thing, made it like a very like a just two people hanging out, um, talking. There was no pressure to say anything right or wrong. And it just continued that way. It never changed. And I think just having someone there to listen and validate my feelings was the first step for me in my healing process. It really made such a difference. And the person I used to be back then I was afraid to be a burden on anyone. I was afraid to say the wrong thing. I was too anxious to make phone calls on my own. Too stressed out and worried and overthought about raising my hand in class because, oh, I didn't want the professor to potentially hate me because I said the wrong thing or I sounded dumb. And everyone maybe experiences that to certain degrees, but mine was, very in my opinion, I feel like it was a little extreme. It was affecting my quality of life. And then just slowly, Dr. Swim kind of like, well, let me look up the number and let me call for you. And then you just listen in and you take notes. And then progressing to, okay, you call and then I'll listen in the background and jump in when you need. And then jumping in when I needed her to. And then progressing to, okay, you make the phone call. Can you make the phone call? And then just meeting me to where I needed her to meet me instead and letting me lead instead of her taking the rein and telling me where I should be. There was no pressure to perform. I could just be myself. And I was allowed to grow and be a stronger individual at my own pace. And now I'm happy and excited to help other people do the same thing. People can change. People can grow. That's not who they are. And knowing that now I'm not that person. I'm not someone that's anxious. I'm not all of these things that they would have lumped me up as, and just knowing that I'm a person that, yeah, I came from traumatic experiences, but they don't define me. I'm happy to say that. And I think I'm a success story.
And just to add in, more than you're just a success story, well, you are obviously you're a heroine. But you're also an amazing resource to us and to the people that we see. Like, if we need, if we have a question about school or a program that's available, funds available, scholarships available, anything like that, Jennifer's our go-to person, and she provides so much knowledge and so much compassion to everybody that she talks to. So she's not only transcended her own situation, but she's imparted her wisdom on so many people, and her caring nature, and she's amazing, truly.
Yeah. And then just to share a little bit about what's happening currently where I work at a college campus. Going from someone who couldn't make a phone call on her own to now suggesting things to the people that are supervisors or in charge of my department. And now last week I just organized this closet for parents to come in and bring their children's gently used clothes, and for other parents who need them to take them free of charge, and then suggesting to make flyers and organizing the closet myself. Like, just that, old me would have never done that. I would have just thought of it and just kept it to myself because I would have downplayed myself and thought, oh, nobody cares about that. Oh, maybe there's not enough money. I didn't think of it like that anymore. I suggested it, and then just seeing my suggestion come to life, to fruition, I don't know, it gives me so much joy. And I hope that people that are feeling the same, like downplaying themselves and thinking, oh, nobody cares about me, I don't care about me, or negative things like that, that it's possible that your life doesn't have to be that way. You can grow from that. You can grow past that. I want other people to feel this joy in themselves, and that life is not written in stone. You can write it yourself, and you can make it whatever you want it to be.
So that was lovely. I just wanted to add that Jennifer has contributed to our podcast. And so she has podcast on her journey into academia. And we were talking about this the other day, but we will share her podcast is in one of our virtual learning modules. But the other thing is that we will share her podcast also with people who are suffering, that are going through similar things. And I remember David and I were listening to this with someone, probably last year. And this woman, as Jennifer spoke, this woman was like, she's just like me. So Jennifer was this incredible inspiration that I couldn't have been, or it was one of those priceless, beautiful moments that even though this person didn't know Jennifer and Jennifer didn't know this person, it was stunning. And it really was so helpful in who that person is today. And so Jennifer is one of our recovery consultants that we have the honor of working with. So thank you so much for that. I'm wondering if maybe, Jennifer, you can keep those thoughts, because when people ask the questions of like some of the methodology, I think that you guys answer that. And so I'm gonna ask for you guys to kind of listen when our former clients are talking about, our recovery consultants are talking about their stories. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to to just ask people individually to maybe talk about their story a bit. And so I'm going to ask next Helen to talk a little bit. And I don't know how to change the screen that I can even see, Helen. I just see the people right here. So anyways.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, Helen.
Hi. How are you, David? I miss you so much. And Dr.
Aw.
Sam, oh my God. I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, I appreciate everyone. I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I went through, but it's really my daughter that went through it. But it actually does have to do with me because, like, before it was so new, I never knew about any of this, illness, mental. I don't want to put a label on it, but she was diagnosed. And I went to many places, and everywhere I went, it was the same thing, very sterile. Um, Psychiatrists, psychological people did not want to talk to me because she was already 21. And I would just pull her out of there, and I was like just lost. And like David said, the stars aligned somehow, and Dr. Swim, found her, went to the horse ranch, and it was the most incredible experience. It wasn't just talking to her, but it was including me so they could know who she was in the beginning. And without that, I don't know what would have happened. No medication. I called it just I don't know, it was just amazing experience. The setting, including me, us together talking and letting her, like I call it, throwing up. But it, it took a while. Obviously, it was twice a week, Monday and Friday, but it was incredible. It was an incredible experience. She is 100% well. She has a job. She's back on her feet. She's normal. I mean, this experience was, I just, I have no words for it. It was so different from the regular setting, and they're not wanting to talk to me and not going inside with her. No. This was totally amazing. I'm actually thinking of becoming a life coach. I don't know. But the experience was truly, it was not just for her, but it was for me as well, teaching me how to deal with things and me talking. So that helped her and it helped me. I mean, it was something that I think more people should know about, and it should be out there and not just putting them in that 3-day hold. They come back and it's ridiculous, just ridiculous. People should know that this exists and there's this option of helping your child or a loved one come out of whatever label they put them on. It is something very needed in this world right now. And yeah, I cannot be just grateful. They'll always be in my heart. Dr. Susan Swim and David, I mean, changed our lives for the better. I don't know if she would have still been, if I didn't meet, I See a Person Institute, I think she would have still been in the same, just the same thing. And just going in, medication, never coming out of it. Never. You need to talk to them. You need to, just, it's a different setting. It's a different way of approach. And yeah, we're still learning every day. And I do take her now to the duck park, and we're learning how to just go out and meditate and walk around and talk. That helps a lot too. Even if you're not, labeled, you can still, these approaches are so important in everyday life. If you're stressed, whatever, it's just amazing to go out there and be with nature. And I think the horses were the, foundation too, because she was talking to them and, we love them, Teresa and Oliver, but we'll never forget the journey was amazing as opposed to being in a hospital setting and with a clipboard and I'm outside in the waiting room. No, 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 no. That's not the way to do this. This is not the way to approach a person that's having, issues in their mind. And no, that is amazing what we went through. And yeah, that's what I can say.
So I'm just gonna kind of bounce off and thank you so much for that wonderful story. And so I'm just gonna add to that just a little bit from my perception and for the question that was asked on kind of the methodology. So, for the majority of my life, I have been using collaborative dialogical practices and we've always thought of this as a philosophical stance, not a formulaic way of doing something. Like nobody's the best at being a collaborative dialogical practitioner. And I've often talked about it within process ethics, which is relational connectedness. So how do we find ways to create this human to human relationship with each other, where it's not, I'm an expert, I'm a psychologist, I'm a professor, I'm important, and I'm prideful. And it's more about how for each person do we, because it's not the same. It's not the same for anybody that I'm in conversation with. Nothing is replicated. I know at the Galveston Institute, probably, I don't know, in the late 90s, one student was trying to say, well, like you have to have formulaic ways. And I said, well, maybe, I walk in, but when I was taught at the Galveston Institute by the first pioneers of marriage and family therapy, it was about do no harm. And so if anything, that stands in my mind. I will never disrespect somebody. I will never dishonor somebody. I will never cut somebody off. I will never make somebody feel worse than when they first came in. And so when you have some of those things out of the way, it gives you so many ideas of what you can do. And so relating to everybody is differently. And I remember with this mother and her daughter that we had some interns at that point in time that were there. And I would say things like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I know how hard it is. Well, I don't know how hard it is, but I know that it is hard because I could see it's a hard time. And I remember one of those students like being very like, what, like, how could you say that it's going to be okay? Because I know it's going to be okay. I have seen hundreds of people go through the same types of things, and it's okay. And it's a frightening situation. So why can't we talk about that? I didn't have to know exactly why these things happened. Like Lynn Hoffman used to talk about the thing in the bushes thing, like as if because I know everything that happened to this person that is going then to lead me to, the treatment plan. Like, it's about relationships and being in conversations and people leaving with hope in some direction. I know with Morales iPhone that we were able to, like, people can call us at any time of the day or night. We are available. They get us. They don't get a recorder. They don't get an answering machine. They get us. And if we have to call them 5 times that night, then, oh, well, we didn't get much sleep, right? But it's not something that at all happens all the time. But I think, and maybe Helen, you could answer this. I think knowing that there is somebody there somehow gives you support. Is that correct?
Definitely. I remember in the hardest of the times, we were talking on the phone and I was crying. I mean, you were helping me to, and it was amazing because nobody else was saying, it's gonna be all right. She'll never go back. She's gonna recover. But you were helping me as well. And then next day, we'd go to the ranch, and then she was talking, and gradually, she just, like you said, she's gonna wake up, and when she does, she'll be fine. And she did. She woke up, and it was close to her birthday, and all of a sudden, she just, and mind you, she was on man, I remember when the first time she was, before we met you, I was going to the church, and I was trying to get a priest to come over because I thought I needed an exorcism. And they never came. It was, I was just like lost. But when I met you and David, it was something so different, so unique from every other place that I took her. And yeah, I stuck with it. And not only that, it was because you were not just talking to her, but I was included. And you were talking to me, David was talking to me. It was just like a family, like something that needs to be done with families together, support system, strong one. And the only way that families can do it is them getting help as well. It just can't be the patient, or the client and the psychologist or the psychotherapist. It has to include everybody, so we all learn together and we all have that patience and understanding of what's going on. That's the way I saw it, and that's the way it is still. She keeps asking me to, if we can go back to see the horses. I'm like, oh well, okay. But now she's busy. She's got her job and she's back on her feet. And yeah, this was, it's very important to me to let people know that this exists, and more has to, you know, come. It other people have to do this. Professionals like you and David and other psychologists and psychotherapists, they should do this alternative. It is very important. I think it works 100% better than the regular, I guess, one. I don't know. I just think that this was an um amazing journey. I learned a lot, and now I do see people different. We have a lot of homeless and people that are walking around the streets, and I'm literally approaching them and asking them, "Do you need help?" And they start talking, and that's what they need, is to be heard. Um, yeah, this I see a person institution for me is, and it should be, shown everywhere. People should know about this and share about it and talk. That's the way to heal, is talking, and no judgment, just listening, and know that they will get better without going into that 3-day hold or taking all these meds. Medication's not going to get you out of it. It just keeps you in the same loophole, and then more medication because you have this, you know, side effect, and then more medication. It was nonstop. And I said, no, this is not right. The side effects were horrible. She was not herself. It was just horrible. But I'm just grateful that you know, you exist and you're telling the story and other people have to hear about it. And as a mother, I mean, it was really, really, really terrifying and heartbreaking to see my daughter going through this. But she's out and she's on her feet again. And it's all because, you know, you, Dr. Swim, and David. I can never be more grateful than that. I mean, you're in my heart forever.
Thank you.
And what you're discounting is what a wonderful mother you are and the unconditional love and support that you provided your daughter. I mean, that can't be discounted. So just that's first and foremost.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's a lot of well, yeah, a lot of love and patience and dedication and just remembering Dr. Swim's words saying, you know, she's gonna be fine. She's gonna never go back. It's gonna be fine. And I kept thinking day and day, well, is she gonna be fine? You know, at the beginning, where when she was really, you know, in her highest of the worst. But I kept thinking, yeah, she keeps saying it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be fine. I have faith, I have faith. And yeah, gradually it just started happening, you know. You know, it took a while. What, it was 3 years ago. And oh man, it just seems like it was a nightmare, but we're out of it. The rainbow's here, and I'm telling you, this has to be learned from people that want to get into this career and take that approach, you know, and not just be in a hospital setting, you know, and not include family members. That to me was horrible. You know, oh, she's 21, so you can't, you know, see or talk or see what our you know, what they're doing with her or anything like that. I'm like, she's 21, but she's my daughter and you don't know her. So how are you gonna just take her to that room and leave me in the waiting room and then they, yeah, open the door and she's out with a whole bunch of, you know, prescriptions. And it's like, I'm lost. I don't understand this system. It doesn't make sense to me. And yeah, that's not the way to go and help somebody that's going through, you know, mental issues. I'm not going to label anything, but yeah, it was a lot of labels. And when they give you those labels, you look them up and it's even worse. You know, the internet's like, oh my goodness, what the hell? And I said, nope, this is not the way. There has to be another way. And there is another way. And this is the way, this approach of I see a person, you see them, and not only them, but you see the family members, you talk to them, and then, you know, my daughter is with me and she's talking to you. She's not scared. She's in a free setting. You know, there's trees, there's shade, there's oxygen. All those things, I think they help. You know, the setting, the approach, you know, the no judgment, just spill it out. Like I say, throw it out, throw up. And yeah, you know, she's able to walk around and do this, do that. In the beginning, it was like pick up the rocks and throw them. And well, no, that helped. You know, she was in her body, I guess she was needing to do these things and it worked. It really worked. You know, she's proof. I'm proof.
You know, and I want to echo what David said. Um, I want to echo what David said about the support that you had for your daughter. It was such a beautiful relationship to watch. And we have a couple of people that are going to have to leave, but thank you everyone that
Thank you so much.
but for me, it was your hope too that uh did you leave? No, there you are. Okay, it was your hope too. You know, you had
Yes.
hope. You knew that your daughter was going to be okay. And so when there is that hope, there's endless possibilities. When you don't have hope, those possibilities are so narrow. But when you have hope, the ideas flourish on different things that can be done. And not to get into too much of what those things were, because that's your story and that's her story, but and your whole family story. But it's self-tailored to each family member. So again, it's not a formulaic way of being. It's a way of being and having that trusting relationship and collectively finding opportunities that are helpful instead of, and it's a we thing. It's the family and us. It's not a work expert and somehow we are so clever that we can walk in and say, this needs to be done. And it's all over, things are going to be fine. But I think what happens so many times in these types of situations is that there's no hope because people are told there's no hope as soon as you become a patient. As soon as you become a patient, there's a diagnosis and there is something wrong with you. And I cannot imagine the terror. And for me, a lot of the psychosis and a lot of the other types of quote unquote diagnoses of severe mental illness labels are terror and anxiety from what types of things have happened. And we have did a lot of research that when people have trauma and then they go into the hospitals and there's this rapid hospitalizations, that the trauma of the treatment outweighs the original symptoms. So if you don't have a horse ranch, this is still so doable because we do not use this horse ranch very much anymore. And although we still have the horses and we would love to be able to bring people once we get another ranch that's more friendly towards this type of work, but it does not have to be that way. It's that presence that's inside of us. A lot of times we will go now to people's homes or we'll go to a park or we will go to uh, Zoom and have these very intimate conversations. But I guess when I'm having these conversations, there's always the memories of those horses or the memories of this being in this what Len Hoffman used to call kitchen table talk conversations. So I'm gonna then bounce that off and maybe Rafi, you could talk a little bit about anything that came to your mind or maybe your experiences. I don't know if you can still hear us, Rafi. So then maybe, Monique, maybe you could talk a little bit about this, if there was something that, because we have people asking, one of the things, the questions that people are asking were painful opportunities, maybe for solutions to occur, the methodology or the approach, like the title of the presentation, how do we normalize ourselves for the other? Yeah, whatever seems like it would be what you would want to talk about.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Monique. I'm glad to be here today. So I came to Dr. Swim 2 years ago, and during the time I had already been seeing another, therapist to kind of handle just how I was feeling with life, like overwhelming feeling of the weights on the world of like the weight of the world's on my shoulders, having to care for my son and my elderly grandparents and just everything. On top of that, dealing with, emotionally trying to heal from my mother's passing. So I was dealing with a lot of like anxiety, feeling like I was always worried about the future and I couldn't get over the past. And it's kind of just stuck in those emotions of not knowing how to navigate how I feel and feeling like I was basically going crazy. And with the normal kind of therapy, that's how it kind of made me feel. It was like, okay, well, your father had an alcohol problem and you drink now. So because of that, you're now going to have this disease as well. So now here I am thinking I have a disease and here I am going to always have anxiety, always feel depressed. And yeah, just take this and take that. And I've never been the type to, I don't take aspirin. I don't really believe in kind of pharmaceutical medicines. I've always been a more holistic approach of doing things, of how I can tap into different resources of feeling better and navigating my emotions without feeling I had to medicate myself. So meeting with Dr. Swim and also with David was just a like breath of fresh air for me. It was just completely made me feel so comfortable for me and my son. I was dealing with a lot of different like legality situations and just a lot of things that I had was like overwhelming for me. And just to feel as if I was just not, I felt as if before I was like being judged, like, oh, she's doing that. Well, it could be me just judging myself as well, but just feeling like, okay, well, this is what's happening. She's a bad mother, or she's a bad daughter, or bad this. So I was very hard on myself for a long time. So being able to just express myself with them and understand that they're also human as well. And even when I would, share a story of what was, happening or what I had previously went through or things like that, to understand that they also have, they're human as well and they have family and they have their own problems that made me not feel as if like, well, they went to school so they were able to graduate and they now are the masters of healing and they are healed and they're going to tell me what I need to do and they're like, I'm below them. I didn't feel that way. I always felt as if everyone goes through things. I don't feel so crazy anymore that even, my own therapist can, be dealing with whatever they're dealing with and make me feel as if like it's okay and how I'm feeling is okay. And I don't have to like be ashamed of everything or feel guilty or like beat myself up about things. I've always felt really comfortable with that. So being able to express myself, being able to, learn how to just kind of be more present in the moment and be okay with like, be okay and taking happiness for what it is. Was at a point in my life where I was afraid to be happy because I was afraid when was the next bad thing going to happen or looking through the past and just with everything. So being able to speak to them and know that it's okay to feel these emotions and being able to process them like, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling overwhelmed? Why do I feel like I just want to like just hopeless kind of those situations and being able to just reach out like, hey, I'm not feeling good or hey, this may be happening or not even knowing why I could be feeling a certain type of way that, I could just be worried or just overthinking or, I've learned now kind of how to navigate my thoughts and be okay with not being okay at times and feeling better and knowing that, there is like a light at the end of the tunnel and it's not always going to be so highs and lows. Like I've always felt as if with life, I've always kind of been in survival mode where it's always like flight or fight, like something's going to happen or you have to just be ready to have the gloves on. Not feeling that way anymore, feeling more at peace. I feel at peace. I feel just this overwhelmed sense of, even when there could be something intense happening in my life and I don't know how I've been able now to just, it could be the craziest thing happening and I could be like, it's okay. Tomorrow's a new day and it's going to get better. And it could just be in the middle of the storm. And instead of just feeling like the storm is just going to wipe me off, I'm like, okay, after the storm, there's going to be a rainbow. So just go through the rain. It's going to be fine and you're going to get wet, but there's going to be something that's better at the end of this, whether it be just like a learning lesson, something that, I, have faith on just creating the energy of certain things and not feeding things negative energy or just staying positive and just knowing that things will get better and I will be happy and I at peace I don't really know if I know the definition of like happiness, but the peacefulness for me is what I've always wanted to feel, that feel like that unworried feeling about what could happen, what could tomorrow bring. And now being able to have that support system, that even when things weren't right or things are right, I'm like, hey, my son got into this, and feeling like I could share that, of having that support system is amazing. Because I do feel, as the pillar of strength in my family, it's kind of hard for me to express when I'm not feeling well, because they look to me for the strength. So being able to not always feel like I have to be strong, and I can be in my weak moments of just exhaustion or just emotionally drained, and being able to speak to someone and say, okay, I'm not feeling good, I'm going to process this, but let me get it off my chest, and then just, go back to what makes me feel good and makes my son feel good. So having that support system has been amazing for me and my son, because it's helped me with just guiding the youth in my career, and being able to help them process what they're processing, and like going through that with them and saying, okay, helping guide based off my own experiences has been an amazing journey for me. And I'm forever grateful, because before I wouldn't know how to navigate through all this things that happen to life, that seem to always life happens. And now I feel like I've been able to kind of heal my trauma, and been able to kind of grow from that into like the better version of me that I've always kind of thought knew was there, but I just didn't know how to get there. And now I feel so much better. And I'm forever grateful for Now I See a Person, because it's helped me tremendously, and it's helped me be a better version of myself, for my family, for myself, and especially number one for my son, because he sees me way happier, which I didn't know that he understands. So he's way happier, and I'm way happier, and until everything, it just looks brighter. So yeah, that's kind of my story.
Thank you so much for that. One of the things that I think about when you were talking is that people do not come in just with one story. There's multiple stories that they come in with. And so for some of our clients, we might see them for a short period of time. For some of our clients, we see them for a longer period of time, depending on what they want. So we don't have I don't think there's many one session sessions that we're able to do, but it's up to them on when they want to terminate. And I guess usually in my experience, people do want to terminate when there's really nothing to talk about. Like not that we went through everything in their childhood, because a lot of times we don't know. We listen to what they feel is important for us to listen to. So our whole type of premises are, we're there to develop a relationship that they feel safe, a honest, genuine, transparent relationship where they feel safe to talk about the things that they need to talk about, and to help them find new possibilities to deal with the trauma at hand. And then once they've met, they've accomplished what they want to accomplish, then that's when quote unquote therapy, or whatever we're calling that we're doing ourselves, is over. So I wonder if we had just had a gentleman that re-entered the room. Would you like to talk a little bit about this? I think that there's some people that would be looking forward to your story.
Well, hello. So, I'm here today to discuss a little bit about my journey to wellness, and how I've gotten to the point where I'm at today. Um, so about 10 years ago, I struggled very, very much with my mental health, like most youth does. And I kind of got thrown into the mental health system, which for me did a lot more damage than good. I am not, I'm not someone who thrives in environments with what I like to say white walls and closed in spaces and very negative focuses. I found that every time I went to go see a psychiatrist or a therapist, I left with more reasons to dislike and distrust myself and heavier prescriptions, which, you know, starting at the age of 10, that's kind of a lot. And then also considering around that age range, I was also going through things like puberty and adding medications into that mix kind of made me go haywire. I'm sorry, I'm not sure why there's like a echo. But as I've grown older and also came to find now I see a person, I've learned to trust myself on a different level. I've learned to not focus on these negative narratives of like, oh, I'm the problem, or it's my past, or it's my bloodline, or it's any of these things. Just learning that like humans have an emotional journey and that's normal, and we just need to learn how to work with said emotions, whether it be like extreme feelings of discomfort and stress and learning how to ride through them, or learning how to be at one with the sadness and the grief that is a part of existence that happens when people die, or, you know, many things can be very distraughting within the human journey. But I think my biggest takeaway has always been that our emotions should not be fully identified with, they should be fully felt, but we shouldn't cling on to them and assume that because we have felt intense grief that the rest of our existence is like that. And that our emotions can also be a superpower. And everyone has their own journey in discovering how to work and alchemize these darker emotions of grief and loss. And for me, it's been a lot of the creative process. Like I've learned to be more accepting of certain feelings and then allowing myself to put it on a canvas or within writings. It's very self-tailored, and through my journey, I have been working with Now I See a Person to not only share my story so that people can feel not alone in this process, not alone in the dark, because it can feel awfully lonely. It can feel very, very lonely when you're either someone who's suffering or someone who's trying to help someone who's suffering. Because, like was stated before, these mental health narratives are really intense, and, you know, a lot of like a lot of the current systems at play kind of sell medications as a god. I mean, I don't want to say as like god, maybe that's a little bit intense, but they sell it as the only cure, and that's not true. And these medications can do a lot more harm than good. I know personally for me, like when I've been studying like my own behavior and like since being off my medications, like whoa, like I didn't realize how many things I could just feel by being quote unquote sober. and not having things that literally just numb you out, because that's what a majority of the medication does, is it just numbs people, and then people go on this journey of seeking feelings still because they're intensely numb. And at least that's my experience, was I was just very sedated at a really young age, and then I became really self-destructive because I was so sedated that I couldn't feel anything and was seeking out emotion or some kind of feeling in general. So yeah, it's been a long journey, and I hope to help people, and I hope that to at least be a voice of reason in saying that, like, you can ride out the really hard parts, and it will be okay, and you can make it to the end of the tunnel. And even with things like going through heavy withdrawals, which people do go through intense withdrawals with medications, or even substance abuse, like, you'll make it out the other end. I know that, like, within the process of getting off my antidepressants that I was on for, gosh, almost like 6 or 7 years, getting off of them was like, it was really intense. And I felt like my roommate, who was going through, who I previously lived with, not at the same time I was going through this getting off detoxification, where he was like up for days at a time and then like down for days at a time. And I went through a similar process with these antidepressants. And yeah, I just would like people to know that you can get off of them and it will be okay. You can feel things about your medications, and they can't sell happiness in a bottle, even though that idea sounds really nice and it would be really awesome to live in a world where you could just get happiness in a bottle. It's even better the reality we live in, because the happiness can be found within yourself once you make it through the negative emotions.
Rosina Cracker. Um, so you have did a few podcasts for us before, and you're also one of our recovery consultants, along with Helen and Jennifer, are kind of our new go-to people that are assisting us. And so I've always really enjoyed you talking about the medications and the difference between being on the medications, being off the medications, but also, like, I think that one of our panel members who had to leave because their phone wasn't working. And these are things that he talked about on the Mad in America podcast. So I'm not going to be saying anything that's confidential. Is also on our website, his podcast. But he had a daughter also that went into a hospital when they were very young, and they were told from a very young age that they were diagnosis and they would have to take medicine for the rest of their life, and that it was like just having heart disease or diabetes, and that it was something that there was no cure for, but they could learn to somehow manage the disability. And you had talked earlier about this almost becoming a club for, because when you're going in and out of the hospital and you're going in and out of seeing psychiatrists and your medication is being changed frequently, and you're being told in therapy to uncover this rock and go to that rock, and maybe it's this rock, and trauma is just swimming around in your head, that it's easy to latch on to other people that are going through the same things, and that your whole life becomes talking about negativity and about death and about nobody getting well. And I thought maybe you could talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, most definitely, like, there is kind of like this underground or common denominator that happens within people that have been through the psychiatric system. Because you live such intense trauma and are kind of in a way trained to only converse about the negativity going on in your life, you have this common denominator of I guess trauma bonding. Within psychiatric hospitals, it's a common practice to do group therapy where everyone sits in a circle and just hashes out everything that has ever hurt them. And it becomes this game of, all right, who's the most messed up and who has the most reason to be here. Humans are but first social creatures. So we try to identify with some sort of group, and when you're told you are an outcast or given such label of, you know, anything within like psychosis or depression or bipolar or anything labeled as insanity, then it becomes kind of almost a game of who's the most deserving of this title and um who's the king of the outcasts, who's the craziest in the bunch, who's the most of something. And that's something that happens within any group. If you look at sociology, there's always going to be some kind of like a um hierarchy that's established within that. So when you put a bunch of people in a space, force them to focus on their negativity that's going on in their life and why they're there, and that, and essentially reward them for being the most hurt and the most damaged by giving them more titles, more medication, more attention at the bare minimum, then it kind of reinforces all the negative habits within everyone else. And that was something that I personally saw and experienced, and even like not just within group therapy, but within like uh college courses as well, like in art courses, because I do have a degree in the arts as well, um where certain students would still kind of cling to these mental health narratives, and then they would almost like form some kind of group within the class of oh, this is how messed up we are, we're just the messed up bunch, and our art is all about how much we hate ourselves or how much we hate existing. And it's a really interesting paradigm to not only observe but also exist somewhat within or live through, I guess. I don't want to say exist within. But it's a very damaging environment to be in because it reinforces very, very bad thought patterns and habits and self-destructive behaviors. And instead of focusing on what's actually helping, they're focusing on what's making things worse and are rewarding the worst behavior.
You know,
And
I'm just going to add into that is that I think what happens is because so much of your young life is cut off and in your peer group are people that have severe psychiatric illness narratives, and that becomes their life of talking. So instead of talking about, hey, let's go to the mall, let's go to Six Flags, it's like, well, I think each person will be comparing like how they're doing, even when they get out of the hospitals, and that continues. And what we've heard clients say before is that when they step out of those narratives and they see themselves as a person and no longer a mental illness narrative, that their friends leave them because they they it's almost like you're abandoned by the people that you knew so intimately from that, if you want to call it trauma bonding or bonding over similar themes of what's important to you. And a lot of those similar themes become like, who was the most suicidal this week? Who had the most seasonal affective disorder and wasn't able to get out of bed? Who had this? Who had this? So what you had before, just like Preeti was saying in her book, what you had before where you were a person that went through trauma, that once you go into the system, which is the system of psychiatry, the system of psychology, she calls it law as well, David, because of course it is all governed by, those types of bodies, that from then on you learn a new language to describe yourself. You no longer to describe yourself as, gee, like I don't like getting out of bed on a cold morning, that I have this and that prevents me from being able to get out of bed. So your whole functioning, your whole self-identity, they change. And it's very insipid. It's very gradual. It's very like all of a sudden one day you have this completely different language that just is not benefiting you anymore. And I think that we have talked about this. I think that other people have talked about this, that it's very difficult to lose that self-identity, because when things start going, because I've heard this from people that that we were talking, because we've been spending about 8 months like planning on these types of conferences that we're going to do again in a few months, but they'll say like, oh, well, my car broke down, and that, well, maybe I'm having a bipolar attack, or maybe I'm having an anxiety attack, or maybe I'm having this, when they're having what we all have, like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough money to pay for that, and so it becomes a big stress. And I know for myself, because I wasn't given a diagnosis, and God knows I could have. I mean, like as I think anybody can, that when those types of things happen to me, I think like, but it doesn't go any further. It doesn't go any further until I'm not functioning correctly. And I know how, like I was telling somebody the other day, my daughter came up to me, and you know this story, and she hugged me and she said, your hair is starting to thin. And then she said, that's okay, you're just getting older. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, like it makes me kind of touch the back of my head and things like that. Like, words are so powerful. The social constructions are so powerful. And and leaving those social constructions and learning new social constructions around the peers that you still have has to be extremely isolating at first, if that's not replaced. So I think that's why a lot of our clients, like this gentleman who has been on Mad America with us, that his daughter now is in a lot of different activities. She is in going to college and has formed new friends and is working and da da da. But when you're still like have those friends from those prior times, it must often feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, it just, if I could piggyback on what Dr. Swim is saying, I think one of the like reasons therapists and people that work at like EMH sites and what have you, um, sort of set up the system that way is because it parallels what they've learned in their universities. Because I remember when I was getting my master's, it was frowned upon not to participate in like a group therapy environment. So I didn't want to participate, and I was ostracized for not participating, for not being part of the club, right? So I think they sort of take that same paradigm and transfer it to their careers, and then they look at people in a particular fashion that don't participate, and the people that do participate and share about how badly they feel and share about their diagnoses and share about their symptoms and so on and so forth. They're the ones that get the attention, the preferential treatment, like Ashley was saying. And I think that the genesis and the inception of all that begins in what we as clinicians learn in school.
And Chris, I don't know if you want to say anything about this, but I always talk about it, and I don't even know if you talk about it anymore. But I remember your books, from a little while ago, and the when it came down to the title hate language, that's always something has went through my mind, that the things that we tell people about themselves aren't things that we would say to people. It was often things that we would don't like.
Yeah. In real life, that psychiatric hate language would be considered hate language, or at best it would be considered very rude. But we wouldn't talk that way in a communal sense. If I look at what I think of as communal values, we wouldn't talk that way about people. Certainly wouldn't talk that way to people. And but it's a real concern, isn't it? Because it's since we've started this work, Susan, it's become popularized. And now people coming and they want to have a diagnosis. And I have to struggle with that. So I do something else, and instead I want to talk with people about what matters to them. I want to talk to them about what they love, about what pisses them off, about what really matters to them. And then I want to know all about that. And when you go there, you tend to all of a sudden you don't need to talk about the psychiatric label stuff.
It dissolves. It
Yeah.
just dissolves.
Yeah, to a great extent. I also wanted to, if you don't mind, one of the things I've seen in your work, which really excites me, and your work is a plural, your all of you. I've spent much of my career working with indigenous populations. Right now, I live on the land of the Sioux people. This land was never ceded to them; it's stolen land. And but they've been very generous to me. But one of the things I've learned from them is that their relational worlds include the animals, the birds, the rivers, the forests. It includes all of it, the ocean. And their relational worlds are in no way stopped as if we're just talking about human relations. And one of the things that I think that you and your people have pioneered is this work that happens with animals. And too many people can minimize that. And I think that's a shame. I've in my own counseling work I've done with people, I've worked with some people who almost their entire relational world is animals. And they're doing just fine. They do all right in that realm. And so I love the fact that you've been working in that direction, and your horses are co-therapists. But maybe better yet, we're co-horses instead. Maybe they're not co-therapists, we're co-horses. We're co-creatures with them, and we find our ways through life. Can I share a couple pieces more? I wanted to share some words I heard. I wish I'd done this more, but I have an illness and I had to rest. But external factors rather than internal factors. That's David. Learn how to listen, supersonic listening. Yeah, it's about listening. Worries about money. Boy, there's a lot of worry about money these days. Loneliness. I'm in Canada, and I know, Susan, you were worried about the medically assisted dying. I'm not. What I'm worried about is loneliness. I think everyone should have the right to die, but they should have the right to die knowing that they're not lonely. Then they usually don't choose to die in that. And so I think everyone should have the right to die whenever, but we should overcome each other's loneliness. And that was Ashley that talked about loneliness, I think. And then she talked about this enemy that puts the disease in me, my past, and my bloodline. I like that. And she talked about this cold language of white walls and closed-in spaces. There's no horses in white walls and closed-in spaces. There's usually no dogs there either. There's usually no babies and children there either. Everything that is communal is taken out of those white wall spaces. And then she also talked about emotions, and instead of putting emotions down, emotions become a superpower. And so Ashley's words were wonderful. And I wished I'd been able to pick up more, but I just had to rest. So I want to thank you all for these wonderful words.
And I think that we also have to talk about the communal, because I think that is so important, because, with all of these stories, there were people in there that loved them. People there and to not include the communal
Yes.
is just to do the same thing as seeing
People, grandparents, uncles and aunts, but also dogs and cats and gerbils and horses.
Yeah. So we went a little bit over. Thank you guys all. We would like for this to become a place that we can do every few months and invite other people to talk with us. That we all are creating this space for these types of discourses to be louder and to be more supportive. Well, we don't feel low even, and there's newness in them. So I think that you guys were just going to say something very quickly, right? If you guys look at your agendas and about the CEU hours, Joanna, for people that need CEUs, and then the type of training.
Yeah, I can just say it real quick and then I have to head out. My babysitting hours ended. So I'll just briefly say it and then I think David can fill in that we have CEUs available on our website for those who need those hours, and it's a great place to learn more about collaborative dialogical therapy. And there's not many places that have, as we've uncovered, are teaching it. So it's a good network to be a part of. It's a good place to learn. And nowiseeaperson.com is the place to go for more information on that. And we have over 28 hours of video from former clients teaching clinicians and the challenges that come with being a collaborative therapist.
Thank you, Joanna.
And then I think about the people that attended today that want the CEUs, right? You were going to send the CEUs to those people that need them. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. So for attending this, you will be receiving CEUs if you need them.
Right. If you just send the completed evaluation form, then we can send the completed certification for the CEU.
You sent that to everybody? The evaluation forms and the certificates?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody that needed the CEUs got one of those?
I haven't sent it yet, but I can.
Great. And then everybody will be getting a certificate of attendance, because I understand, like, I was talking to Monica, Chris, and she said that people in Canada can get CEUs for this as well. Correct?
Yeah. Every province doesn't need them, but some would. She's in Alberta, and they probably need it there. But
So thank you, everybody, for coming on today. We certainly had a good time. It was wonderful seeing old and new faces and listening to all these wonderful stories. And we hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
hi, Megan.